Hey there, Central Ohio. I'm 10 Weather Impact meteorologist Michael Behrens. It's a 10 TV Weather Impact Alert Day across the region this afternoon and evening. We have the risk for some strong to severe weather. We had a little bit of severe weather earlier in the day today, but we could see some more before it's all said and done. I've got good news for us, though. It's not as big of a threat as what other parts of the country are dealing with today. You may have seen some headlines and information about what they're dealing with further to our south. That kind of weather should stay further their direction. But we are looking at two things, mostly heavy wind and heavy rain as we head through the next 12 hours. So I want to get you started with a look at our weather impact alert here today. Again, for the rest of this afternoon and evening, heavy rain and storms in our forecast across central Ohio. Our timeline looks like this. We should see storms developing across the region in the next couple of hours here. Severe weather, if we're going to see it, is going to be from now through about 10 o'clock tonight. That's the best chance for some of those storms. Once we get into the overnight hours, though, we kind of move from a severe weather risk into more of a heavy rain risk, and we have to watch for the possibility of flooding as we head through tonight and into early parts of tomorrow and really throughout the day Sunday, because all that water is going to be ponding and collecting from the rain that comes down as we head through, the next 12 to 18 hours here across central Ohio. Where we're sitting right now, Columbus, it's still pretty quiet. The clouds are out there. The temperatures are up. We're in the 70s at this hour, 71 degrees. We recovered those temperatures nicely after the rain came through earlier today. That means there is some energy out there for storms to work with. It's not particularly sunny, so we're not like overwhelming the environment with the potential for thunderstorms, but we are warm and we are certainly into more of a humid environment, and that is what storms like to have as they form. 60s, 70s across central Ohio right now. Dew points, they're not as high as they typically are when we have a really big severe weather day. That's why last night, if you were joining us about 6 o'clock through the 11, we talked about lowering that severe weather risk. We dropped it to a level 1 out of 5 instead of a level 2 out of 5 where we were earlier in the week. Part of that is we just don't have enough moisture out there. Dew points in the 40s and 50s. Really, you want these numbers above 60 if you're talking about more aggressive types of thunderstorms. But it's not to say that they aren't possible. We certainly have thunderstorms in the forecast as we head through the next 12 hours. As we work our way toward this evening past sundown, rain chances will be back on the rise. Some thunderstorms in there as well, and those rain chances, once the thunderstorms start to dissipate, well, continue through the rest of the night. Look for continuous periods of rain through the overnight and into the early part of your Sunday as well. Rainfall chances out there really start to increase over the next several hours. Note, by the time we get toward 5, 6, 7 o'clock, we're pretty much expecting rain across the region, and that pattern continues through the overnight and even into tomorrow morning, becoming a little bit more scattered, but we will still be watching that rainfall head our way. The other concern we're watching as we head through this evening and into tomorrow is going to be the winds. Even when we don't have the thunderstorm threat out there, it is still going to be quite a high wind impact out there. Note right now we're gusting to 51 in Marion, 41 in Mansfield, 30 here in Columbus, and 37 in Lancaster. Those winds are going to be an impact throughout the evening and into the overnight as well, even if we're not seeing otherwise strong thunderstorms. The wind gust forecast out there, 30 to 40 plus as we head through the rest of this afternoon. It does back down a little bit once we get, say, 7, 8 o'clock, but then we get back up into those 30, 40 mile per hour winds as we head through the overnight tonight, and that will continue into early Sunday as well. With that information, they have extended the time that we'll be under a wind alert here this evening. Wind advisories now in place until early Sunday morning. Most of the ones further south expire about 6 a.m. Some of those northern counties, those will go till about 8 a.m. tomorrow. So we are expecting that wind threat to continue beyond this evening and into the day tomorrow. As far as the severe threat goes, again, we talked about this getting lowered, but we're not out from under the gun just yet. A level 1 out of 5 risk still covers the entire state of Ohio. Our threats remain pretty much unchanged from where they were yesterday evening. Our main focus is going to be on the wind risk out there. We do have the secondary risk being those flooding rains. Hail, tornadoes, not impossible. Can't rule them out from any storms that we see develop out there later today, but they aren't going to be the main focus of our severe weather. If we see it tonight, it's going to be wind that is the main driver behind any of those strong storms. Speaking of the storms, radar right now pretty quiet for most of central Ohio. We do have our first little bit of rain working its way over toward the northwest of London. Had a little bit of lightning not long ago, but that has weakened for the moment. We're keeping an eye on a stronger line back across the Indiana border up toward Fort Wayne. You can see some severe storms going on once you get up into northeastern Ohio. Also seeing some pretty strong cells work their way in. Good news is for at least this part of the line, I would not expect it to impact us here in central Ohio. I'll put the storm track on for you. This is moving at pretty steep angle on up toward the north and the east, about 45 miles per hour. So you can kind of see the path this is taking. It's going to be up toward Monterey and Napoleon, not really going to be working its way toward Bellefontaine or Marysville. So a lot of that strong weather not likely to make its way into at least our part of central Ohio. As we head further to the south, most of this turns to rain. We see some pretty good rainfall across the east central Indiana down into southern Indiana. A lot of heavy rain working its way towards Cincinnati at this hour. This stuff has a better chance of heading our way, moving about the same speed, also about the same direction. We'll put the storm track on there. You can see that one not quite making it into the 10 TV viewing area in the next hour, but when it does make it here, it will continue to generally head our way. So places like Washington Courthouse on up to London, over to Springfield, those areas, this heavy bit of rain that's moving through Cincinnati will be heading that direction. And then, of course, we've got more rain further to the south. Again, you can see a large band of heavy rain, some lightning, certainly some gusty winds north of Lexington right now. All of that line also going to be working its way in towards central Ohio. Probably not in the next hour, but in the next 2 hours, that's when that's going to start to get here. About the closest it gets to us is on up toward the Peebles area. It's going to be working its way into Scioto, Pike counties out there as we head through the next hour. And then about 2 hours, 3 hours from now, all of that heavy rain going to be working its way into the heart of central Ohio. And of course, bringing the threat for winds, lightning, maybe some severe weather with it. Right now, though, that southern line not showing severe characteristics right now, more of the heavy rain threat. And that'll be the case again as we head through the rest of tonight. Not so much the severe weather risk, but certainly the heavy rain risk as we work our way into this evening. Big picture here shows just how much moisture is in the system. Moisture stretching all the way down to the Gulf, where they're dealing with some pretty nasty severe weather here tonight. That moisture is going to be working its way on up into Ohio, and that's going to present our risk for the heavy rain and flooding that continues as we head through tonight. We'll take a look at things hour by hour here. You can see right now pretty quiet as we work our way toward about 6 o'clock. A lot more of that heavy rain has started to work its way into central Ohio. This is where, if we're going to see any strong storms tonight, this is going to be our best chance for it. Again, it's a low risk, but not a no risk. We're watching those cells that push in for winds. Again, maybe some hail, maybe an isolated tornado that can't be ruled out, but wind is our main threat, followed by the heavy rain. Once we get past that and into beyond, say, 10 o'clock midnight tonight, most of this is now into rain territory. Are we going to rule out thunderstorms? No, there's probably going to be some lightning and thunder in here, some gusty winds for sure, but we're watching mostly heavy rain fall from the system. We see some breaks as we head through tonight, but then we're back into more bands of heavy rain as we head toward early tomorrow. Again, likely some thunderstorm activity in here, maybe some wind as well. As we get into the day on Sunday, we're past most of the thunder and lightning, may see a few stray bolts in there, but we're looking at more of just continuing lingering showers. Those showers will start to push out as we head towards Sunday evening, and we'll be back to dry weather as we work our way into Monday. In terms of rainfall that comes from the system, we're expecting a pretty good soaking across central Ohio over the next 24 hours. We're going to pick up pretty broadly about 1 to 2 inches of new rainfall. Some of those harder hit areas, we think, especially as you get further southwest toward Fayette County, Washington Courthouse and beyond, that's where we do have the risk for a better chance for flooding, I should say. Those areas could pick up in excess of 2 inches of new rainfall. The further over toward the east you get, those totals get cut down a little bit. We're talking more about a ½ inch, inch and a half. Could still see some flooding, but overall pretty heavy rainfall that's going to be heading our way. In terms of the flood potential that we have out there across the region today, we still remain about the same category we were last night, which is a level 1 out of 4. So it's not a super high risk of flooding, but it is something to be aware of, especially as you head out overnight. And you can never tell how deep those waters are. If a road gets flooded or something like that, we'll have to watch that pretty carefully. Again, the higher risk remains further to the south towards Cincinnati, where those heavy rain bands are at this hour. That's where I would think if we're going to see any kind of major potential for flooding, it is likely going to be down in those counties further toward our south and west. Of course, we're keeping an eye on everything related to this storm system as we head through tonight. It's going to be the next several hours that we have the risk for some storms across the region. I want to go ahead and switch back to our radar right now and show you guys our few flood alerts that we do have in place across the region at this hour as well. Those flood alerts, again, mostly toward our southern counties related to that rain that they have ongoing at this hour. We'll put the information up on your screen here. Those no flash flood warnings right now. We'll switch to the flood alerts for you. We have flood watches in place for Pike, Ross, and Fayette counties. Those alerts will be in place through tonight and into part of the day tomorrow. We'll put the exact time those expire up on your screen here. Those continue until at least 8 a.m. Sunday morning for that risk of some heavy rain tonight, possibly some flooding through the overnight hours. Again, kind of lining up exactly with what we were telling you guys for the past several days. The heaviest rain is going to be further south and further to the west. Once you get towards Cincinnati, that's where a lot of that heavier rain is going to tend to end up, especially as we head through tonight. So I'll put back the latest radar here on screen for you, and I'll tell you what we're going to go here and do next. What we like to do in these streams is take your guys' questions and answer them here on our live broadcast. You can send them to us via text. That number's on your screen, 614-460-3345. Or if you're watching on Facebook, you can also leave your comments in the Facebook live comments. We can get to those there as well. So I want to go ahead and start looking through the Facebook comments here, see if you guys have any questions about what's going on right now. Angela's saying they've got a little bit of sun here in Columbus. We have seen some of that sun this afternoon, you don't want to see sun when you have severe weather in the forecast because that helps to give us a little bit more energy. And we've seen the temperatures come up some this afternoon as well along those lines. I'll put the latest temperature map back up here across the region as well. We're still sitting in the 70s at this hour, so that's pretty warm air. The benefit is it's not especially humid out there. Temperatures about 71 in Columbus, 69 Lancaster, 70 in Newark. So it's pretty warm air, pretty spring air, and there's going to be some fuel for the thunderstorms, but not as strong as it could be for this time of the year. Got a lot of people checking in out there. Got Kristen from Hebron checking in. Enid asking how bad for Columbus. Again, we have that risk for severe weather this afternoon, but the good news is I think wind is our main threat. I'll show you the wind advisory again. Wind advisory in place tonight until tomorrow morning for a good chunk of central Ohio. You see all the counties in the tan there under wind advisory. Some of these expire about 6 a.m. Some of them expire about 8 a.m. So just keep in mind that's going to be quite windy through the start of the day tomorrow. And we do have that risk for severe weather out there as well, but it is a low risk, a level 1 out of 5 risk for Columbus and the rest of central Ohio, mostly centered around that wind threat that we'll be dealing with across the region. If you've been seeing headlines about a big severe weather outbreak today, that is ongoing as we zoom back out down to the south across portions of Mississippi into Alabama. That is a level 5 out of 5 high risk that they have down there. People sometimes ask what that risk actually equates to, and I'll put it this way: it's so few high-risk days ever issued. There's actually a Wikipedia article that will list every single one of them. So these are quite rare. Only about one per year at the most do these usually get issued. So they are going to be dealing with quite an outbreak of severe weather, unfortunately, to the south. And we had the outbreak last night further toward our west. Tornado warnings and damage in Indiana, Illinois, into Missouri, down into Arkansas. So it has been a strong system that has been working its way across the country. Let's see, Abby checking in, Pataskala, also seeing the sun out there. Stacy asking about Madison County. All of us really have the same threat here tonight. I guess the good thing about this system is we're all under the low threat. There's not really anyone that we can focus on and say, hey, you have a higher severe risk than anybody else as we head through this evening. So it's all pretty uniform in that regard. When it comes to the rain, that would be the thing that I would focus on, is having more of an impact that's a little bit spatially relegated. Those southern counties, the ones that we showed you the flood alerts, Fayette down to Pike, Ross counties, they have the highest risk for impacts from heavy rain. I'll put the expected rain hour by hour back up on your screen as well. That is kind of highlighting where some of those heavier bands could be. Really more of southwestern counties, I would say, have the highest risk of that heavy rain. Looks like we just got a new update here in the last 10 minutes as well. These numbers have changed a little bit from what we showed you before. So again, kind of those counties really here and to the southwest. These are the ones that I would say have the highest risk for flooding, heavier rains, and more or less that impact tonight. Again, all of us have that same threat for winds. We do have, again, Fayette County, Ross and Pike counties under the flood watch for tonight. That could expand to more, but right now, just those three counties. And then all of us have that wind advisory in place as we head toward tonight as well. I got Virginia checking in from Newark. Faith was asking about Lancaster. Again, kind of the same. I think I just answered your question there about all of us more or less being under the same threat. Watch out for the winds and the flooding. Let's see. Amanda checking in. Abby asking about Licking County. Pataskala, she says, got my hopes up that we'd get some storms. We still are going to get some storms out there, so your hopes aren't dashed yet. We're just kind of in that lull period between storms right now. So there's more on the way, and we'll certainly see some thunderstorms develop here over the next several hours. This morning kind of took a little the energy out of the air. We had a little bit more storms, a little bit more rain than expected, I would say, this morning, but there's still storms coming as we head through the next several hours. You see these storms up toward the north and west, not likely to make it toward here, but we do have the storms further to the south. A lot of heavy rain that's heading our way. All of this is going to be working its way into central Ohio as we head through the next several hours. This will probably intensify at least a little bit once it gets into some of the quieter air that we've had around this afternoon, a little bit of the warmer air, a little bit of the more humid air. But as far as any kind of major severe weather, I think it's unlikely. It's not impossible, but I think that's a little bit more unlikely. Kristen checking in from Hebron. Stephanie, very windy in Reynoldsburg. Stacy, London, very cloudy, very windy. Yep, we were talking about the winds. They're going to stay a factor regardless of if we see the thunderstorms out here this afternoon. It's going to be windy no matter what. So if you got anything outside that's not tied down, it's likely getting blown around pretty good, tossed around this afternoon. Wind gust right now, highest is 51 in Marion. The wind gust at 30 Columbus, 25 Urbana, 37 Washington Courthouse. Same for Lancaster, Newark, gusting to 40 at this hour. So quite a bit of wind out there regardless of the threat for severe thunderstorms. See, Ashley said the lights have been flashing at her house. And again, I would expect that to be a lot of the wind impact out there. With the winds this afternoon, wouldn't be surprised to see some tree limbs impacted, some power lines get taken out by those, just kind of the territory that comes along with high winds in general, that we would see that continue this afternoon. The wind forecast, we keep those gusts 30 to 40 miles per hour through the next several hours. They take a brief respite as we head into this evening, but then they kick right back up as we head through the overnight. 30 to 40 mile per hour wind gust, and this is outside of any of the thunderstorms that we could see where the winds might be higher. Those wind alerts continue tonight till tomorrow morning before those finally expire. Let's see here. Got Kim checking in from Gratiot, saying it's pretty windy out there. Same over in Marion from Megan checking in. David, they're in LA, no storms and sunny skies. Rubbing it in a little bit out there. Andrew from Galena checking in with pretty windy conditions. Windy in Galloway from Bill. Let's see here. Windy from Leslie checking in. Rhonda also as well. Lots of wind reports out there from you guys. Let's see here. Ashley saying, hope we don't get blown into Oz. They rather like their current location. I don't think we're going to talk about Wizard of Oz level winds out there tonight, but it is certainly going to be quite gusty. And again, if we have any severe weather tonight, wind is our main threat. We've been talking about that for the past several days, and we're going to see wind continue to be our main threat as we head through this evening. Enid asking if we do have any risk for tornadoes. It's not impossible. It's in the low category for us. So we're not going to rule it out. We're not going to say that we can't have a tornado. But if we do see a tornado tonight, it will be more of an isolated event. We're not expecting the kind of outbreak that they're expecting further to the south. So that's good news there. Megan asking about animals. Should they put animals inside? I don't think it's a bad idea. For tonight, especially if you have a pet that's more afraid of thunderstorms. We're certainly going to see thunder, wind, lightning, all those impacts tonight. If your animal typically has a house that's under a tree, something that might be impacted by heavy winds, it might be better to put them inside just because you don't want to face that threat. Or if you know you're in an area that typically floods, because we have that rain risk this evening as well. It's not a massive threat for flooding, but if you're in an area that usually collects water, I think we're going to see that happen pretty assuredly in a lot of those spots here tonight. Let's see. Carmen asked, when will the rain stop tomorrow? We're expecting rain now to continue through at least scattered showers into the afternoon. So I would not expect any big solid chunk of dry time tomorrow until we get into the evening. I think most of the day we'll have at least some chance for rain out there as we head toward tomorrow. Let's see. Kim, I think it was Kim. Oh, I just lost my comments there. Checking in, asking, they joined a little bit late. We'll actually do a recap of the forecast here in just a couple minutes. I got a couple more questions to get to for you guys. Got some into the text line as well, so I want to go ahead and see what those are saying here. Asking about a risk for tornadoes. We talked about that a little bit. Not impossible risk for tonight, but it's not going to be the main focus as we head through this evening. And got some other people checking in as well. They're out in West Virginia, and they're talking about just how windy it is down there as well. And that's certainly going to be a threat across a good chunk of the region tonight, is those wind threats. I'll switch back to that map here with our wind advisories. I just want to see how far that goes. Yeah, you can kind of see all the way over to New York, all the way over toward Michigan, down into a lot of the deep south. It's everywhere. There's lots of wind in this system, so this is going to be a pretty persistent threat across the region as we head through tonight and into tomorrow. So I want to go ahead and reset here for those of you that might be just joining us. If you've been watching, this is the point where we've gotten through most of the questions that have been sent in. So we're going to go ahead and restart from the beginning of our forecast and run everybody through that has just joined us with what we're expecting across the region through tonight and what we can expect as we head into tomorrow. Of course, there's your big headline weather impact alert day in place for this evening through tonight. Heavy rain and storms expected across central Ohio. That'll be the concern as we work our way from tonight into tomorrow. So we're going to be keeping a close eye on anything that comes through tonight. Storms are going to be developing across the region in the next few hours. Obviously, we have the stuff on the radar right now that will be moving our way, but we're also expecting some risk for additional development ahead of that. So we will keep a close eye on that. If we do see severe weather, it'll be from now through about 10 o'clock. Once we get past there, we're going to transition more toward heavy rain. Is it impossible that we could see a strong storm after that tonight or into early tomorrow? It's not impossible, but I think we're kind of out of the prime window once we get into the overnight tonight. What we've seen since this morning, when we did have a few rounds of heavy storms come through, is a recovery of temperature at least. We were pretty chilly, well, not chilly, but we were cool this morning. We did get back up into the low 70s 70s this afternoon. Southerly winds have boosted that. We've seen a few peaks of sunshine, but I got to tell you, the cloud cover is probably helping to tamp down the overall severe risk. So we're not getting a lot of extra energy put into the environment, but we are seeing an increase in temperature and an increase in humidity that will help to fuel some of those storms out there over the next several hours. Temperatures kind of a mixed bag. Looks like we've got a little bit more sunshine out to the east, places like Coshocton, Zanesville, Cambridge, well up into the 70s. Not quite as much further west. Bellefontaine 59, 65 Urbana, 62 Springfield. So we kind of got a mixed bag of energy across the region. If we got some good news out there, it's the fact that it's not excessively humid. It is a little sticky outside, but dew points are mostly 40s, 50s. We're not talking 60s and above. That's kind of the energy we really want to see if we're going to talk about a big severe weather day. So there is some moisture out there to work with, but it's not excessive, and that's part of the reason why we're in that lower category of severe weather risk. Not one that's impossible, but one that's just a little bit lower. The next 12 hours out there, we're looking at a temperature that will drop into the low 60s, showers and thunderstorms developing as we head into this evening and tonight. So keep in mind as we work our way through tonight and into Sunday, it's going to be pretty rainy. It's going to be a little bit active. Make sure you have the 10 TV app or the Weather Network app downloaded to your phone. You can get alerts sent right to your pocket as soon as they issue, or if we do any special broadcasts like this or otherwise related to the weather, you can also watch those on your app as well. And of course, where you might be watching this right now, the 10 TV Plus app, Roku, Apple, Fire TV, you can download there and watch for free. As far as the rest of the rain chances go, pretty high as we head through this evening. We're talking 70% and above into the early AM tomorrow. We get a little bit more scattered as we head toward sunrise Sunday, but it's not really going to go away. We'll keep those rain chances in the forecast as we head into the early part of the day tomorrow. Of course, beyond the threat for the storms, wind we've been talking about too in this broadcast is going to be a pretty persistent threat. We're seeing that out there this evening. Gusty winds up to 51 miles per hour in Marion. Keep in mind, severe thunderstorm warnings, they start about 57, 58 and above, 60 and above. So we're not far off from that in terms of wind gust strength out there this evening. Gusting to 30 in Columbus, 37 Washington Courthouse, 37 in Lancaster, and 40 now in Newark, up to 41 Mount Vernon and in Mansfield. So very strong winds blowing across the region tonight. In terms of the gust forecast, we'll keep 30 to 40 plus mile per hour winds gusting in the forecast through this evening. You note those eastern counties a little bit weaker. Strongest winds from about 71 corridor over toward the west. A small break as we head into the evening, but then we pick right back up as we head into tonight. 30, 40 plus mile per hour wind gusts continue into the early part of the day tomorrow. For that reason, they've extended the time on our wind advisories. If you were watching last night, these were going to expire about 8 o'clock tonight. Now they've been expanded. They're going to last longer. They cover a few more counties. Most of these expire between 6 to 8 a.m. tomorrow morning. So we're going to keep an eye on the winds as we head through tonight. Could see some isolated power outages, tree limbs down, things like that across the region from these winds. We had at least one report of the power flickering out there. Wouldn't be surprised with some of these really gusty winds pushing through central Ohio. Severe weather risk not out from under the gun, still remaining under the lowest tier for tonight. That covers all of Ohio with the same level of severity, a level 1 out of 5 risk for severe storms for today and tonight. Our impacts remain about the same. Tornadoes in the low category, can't rule them out, but not our main focus. Wind is our bigger concern. Hail, again, can't rule it out, not our main focus. Flooding going to be a heavier threat as we head through tonight and into tomorrow. So we'll be watching that pretty closely as we work our way through the next few hours. As far as the latest radar out there, rain starting to work its way down toward Pike County, down toward Jackson, Ross County, Fayette County, seeing that rain push its way in. So far, haven't seen any thunderstorms develop, but we'll keep a close eye on the radar. We've had some stronger storms up in northeastern Indiana, some of that working its way across the border into Ohio, but I want to put a track on these storms. These are moving at quite a steep angle here, so they're not really going to be a threat to most of central Ohio. A lot of this moving off to the northeast, about 45 miles per hour, so most of this travels to the north and east of us here in central Ohio. As we look a little further to the south to areas that could impact us, we're looking more at the rain, at least right now. We've seen some lightning, some thunder in here, but we haven't really seen severe weather, at least for now. We'll track this area of heavy rain that's just off to the northeast of Cincinnati at this hour. That's going to be putting its way toward Dayton as we head toward 457 and eventually off toward places like London over there on our eastern side of our western side of the viewing area, places like Springfield up toward Urbana, that particular part of the rain is probably going to head your way. The bigger swell of moisture that's down in northern Kentucky right now, a lot of this is likely going to head into central Ohio in the coming hours. We'll put the storm track on the leading edge of that portion of the line as well. And this is going to be up in about the next hour into Pike and Ross counties. You can see it into the Peebles area by 4:50, into Hillsborough by 5:06, Waverly 5:17, and Jackson by 5:27. The good news with this right now, haven't seen severe weather, at least in the last hour or so associated with this line. This is a lot of rain. Bad news is it's moving into a quieter area, so we could see some potential for storms here as we work our way into the evening. But again, I think the major risk for severe weather, that stays further to the south. You can see the tornado warnings down in Tennessee, down into portions of Mississippi and Alabama. That's the big threat for severe weather tonight. We're on the low end, which is good news for us. Hour by hour forecast here, we're tracking that rain pushing in across the region next several hours. If we do see severe storms, I think our biggest threat is from now through about 10 o'clock. But again, keep in mind, in the low category. Beyond that, rain, thunderstorms continue overnight into tomorrow morning. We see another round, maybe some thunderstorms out there early Sunday. This will push out as we head into the afternoon. The lingering scattered showers continue into the evening, and then we're back to mostly dry weather, and the model now throwing a few flurries in there as we head toward tomorrow morning. Don't get your hopes up for snow. This is mostly going to be a rain system, and any flurries that come down are just going to be superficial. As far as what we're looking at, expected rainfall, again, pretty good soaking in the next 24 hours, 1 to 2 for most of central Ohio. I think the model right now underplaying some of these numbers. I would say anywhere in the blue, expect about 1 inch to 1.5 inches. Once you get into some of those purple areas, and especially as you get further to the south and west, we could see higher totals, maybe up closer to 2+ by the time this is all said and done. That's why we do have that risk for flooding. Covers all of central Ohio for the rest of this evening into tonight. That's a level 1 out of 4 risk, so it's not impossible that we would see flooding out there, but it's not, again, that major risk factor as we head through tonight. I'll circle these counties here on your map once again. Fayette County, Pike County, Ross County, these counties under a flood watch as we head into this evening. So that'll be something to keep a close eye on as we head through the rest of tonight. I'm going to give the questions section a quick scan here real quick just to see if anything sticks out in terms of questions from you guys at home, and then we'll wrap things up here, get you guys back to the rest of your afternoon. If you're watching 10 TV, we're going to be in March. I don't think it's March Madness basketball yet. I think it's Big Ten basketball for the rest of the evening. So our 6 o'clock show tonight will be on 10+. That could be where you're watching this right now. We'll have that streaming 10tv.com as well. Amber asking about the winds when they calm down in Chillicothe. I expect it to be pretty windy for the rest of tonight and the start of the day tomorrow. And even once the winds back down some tomorrow, still going to be a little bit gusty as well. Let's see here. Kathy checking in 10 miles northwest of Marysville, says no power for you guys up there. And again, that's not shocking with the winds out there and the continued threat for strong winds as we head through tonight. I want to put up the current wind gust again. Marysville, or Marion was the highest one up there in terms of wind gust, but I would expect 30-40+ over toward Marysville as well at this hour. So it's been very windy across the region. That will continue as we head through tonight. Ashley asking about the Futurecast model of the radar, about what the yellow colors mean. The yellows are just heavier areas of rain. Once you start getting into this, like stronger storms, you're talking like reds, darker reds, purples, oranges, things like that. Gladys asking, is this the same system that came through from out west and caused some fires? Yes, actually, the wind was a driving factor behind some of those fires out there. They had some fires in Missouri yesterday as well related to this system. Let's see. Ashley checking in, likes the, hates storms, not likes storms, hates storms. Says attempted to move to Alaska at this point, but you know, they got their own problems up there. Got a few more questions in the text line as well, so I'll check into those. one here asking about Southern Ohio, what we think about the differences down there. Southern Ohio, I think you've got a higher flood risk as we head through this evening. Let me put on the flood map here as well. I think that's the biggest difference for you guys, other than maybe a slightly higher severe weather alert or severe weather risk. I think mostly it's that flood risk. You can see those counties there in that forest green color are under that flood watch as we head through tonight. I think that's the biggest difference for Southern Ohio. Be careful, especially overnight and tomorrow morning, about that potential for flooding. Question here about Utica. Again, with most of our weather threat here in central Ohio, it's going to be pretty uniform across the region as we head through tonight. We're all under the same general risk for severe weather. The big difference is where the flooding is going to be more likely, which is again those southwestern counties you see on your screen here now. The severe weather risk uniform across the region. Low threat for tornadoes, wind in the medium category, low threat for hail, flooding in the medium category. If you're further to the south, I'd probably bump that up to a level. We're at a level 2 here on the general risk. I'd probably bump those southern counties up to a 3 out of 5 risk. It's not going to be likely a major record-breaking type flood, but it is going to be impactful. We could see some flash flood warnings in those southern counties later tonight. So again, remember, use caution, turn around, don't drown. That's what we always say when it comes to the risk for flooding across the region. And while we have a few minutes here, I'll go ahead and break down those flood types out there, flood warning types, just in case. It's been a while since you've seen some of those. As far as flood alerts go, flood advisories are the most minor level of flood concern. This is where flooding is likely in low-lying areas, areas that typically pond or pool water. We're not really expecting a major threat to life or property of those, but you will notice some impacts, possibly some flooded roads when it comes to a flood advisory. From there, we move up into what is the aerial flood warning. That's what the watch is for down south. A flood warning, it means that we're expecting some life-threatening flooding to occur. Water will rise gradually, typically over a period greater than 6 hours. This is caused by events like what we have heading our way, prolonged heavy rainfall. So if you find yourself under an aerial flood warning, make sure you get the latest information about what areas are expected to flood from that alert and respond accordingly. Of course, never drive through those flooded roadways. Flash flood warning, that is the most urgent kind of flood alert. If we do see one of those issued, that means life property threatening flooding is occurring or is expected to occur very shortly. This could take anywhere between minutes to a few hours, but you need to act quickly to get out of the flood zone in those cases because we're going to see a violent, rapid rise in flooding. And the other kind of flood warning that we could get is just your standard flood warning, which is actually for a river. So if you're near a river, waterway, something that is monitored in terms of flooding level and river levels, those are the areas where we could get flood warnings. And of course, if you live near a river, especially one that rises and tends to fluctuate quite frequently, you're very familiar with these situations and know how to handle them and to get out of those flood zones if those rivers are expected to rise. Again, when it comes to the flood risk as we head through this evening, it's a level 1 out of 4. The highest risk down toward those counties under the flood watch, which is down towards southwestern Ohio, where we have that level 2 out of 4 risk. So we're going to be keeping a close eye on how much rainfall we get out there tonight and where those heaviest impacts do eventually end up coming down. Of course, we've got a lot of time to go before we get into likely seeing that flooding happening, but we are watching some heavy rain working its way out of Kentucky at this hour. Some pretty heavy bands coming up toward Ohio that'll be pushing its way in toward us in the next few hours. You can already see some of that rain crossing the border into our southern counties here tonight. We'll be watching for that and the possibility of strong to severe storms. We're going to go ahead and get things wrapped up here now on this stream. Again, if you're watching us on TV tonight, basketball will be on for the early show, so join us on 10 Plus for our 6 o'clock newscast. You can download that, Apple, Roku, Fire TVs, and watch for free, or you can stream us, 10tv.com. For now, though, have a great afternoon. I'm meteorologist Michael Behrens, and of course, we'll be here to keep you updated if anything changes.